miss one, you can always catch up there. And okay, all right, we are streaming. We're live. So my name's Chris Berry, certified outlaw attorney, certified financial planner with Castle Wealth Group. And on these weekly wisdom webinars, where we start with positive focus, something positive that happens, either personally or professionally. It's the way we like to start dinner every night. We just go around the table. What's something good that happened today? Focus on the good things in life. And then I just go ahead and answer any questions that are submitted from either people listening, viewing, or our clients. And we go ahead and address those questions each week. This week we have 2 questions that came in. Okay. And we'll go ahead and get started. Positive focus. We're in the middle of soccer season, and my son's team, and his team struggled last season. I'm the coach, so, but right now we're in first place. So just 2 games, but it feels good to have the kids winning some more games right now. So that's pretty cool. All right. And let me share my screen and we'll get into it. And again, if you do have a question or something's unclear, please put it into the Q&A. These are really these are really for you. So I have up to about 45 minutes, but if it's only 5 minutes, it's only 5 minutes. All right, and let me share my screen. And then again, this is just general kind of education. This isn't specific advice. If you want specific advice, let's get on a call. So the first question here, let me just make sure I have everything open I need. Okay, all right. So the first question, I have $30,000 saved for my 17-year-old daughter. She won't be going to college. I'd like to invest to help her in a future home in 3 to 5 years. What should we look at? So a couple of things here. Okay, we don't want money going outright to a 17-year-old or even legally 18-year-old, just because sometimes we have concerns about financial management. Not going to college, so that would cross off things like 529s. And then we have a time horizon we're looking at here of 3 to 5 years. So based on that, really we have 3 options if we're looking at trying to get some growth at the end of the day. One is we can put the money into the market. So there's different types of portfolios we can put together based on this short time frame. I would say that this should be a relatively conservative portfolio, just because we don't have a large time horizon to work with. If we're saying this money would be used in 30 years, then that money should probably be invested differently than money that should be used within the next 3 years or 5 years, right? Just because no one can control the markets, and we're realizing this now, or you're certainly seeing it now with everything year to date being down. It's just typically a matter of how much down it is if the money is in the market. But that's where time horizons over time, that fuels long-term growth. But we're going to have always short-term volatility, and there's a lot of reasons why we had volatility this year to date. So we can have the money in the market. That's one option. This is something we've talked about before, and this is probably where I would go with this right now, is looking at I-bonds. So I-bonds, you go straight to Treasury Direct, and you get them yourself. We have 520. What option? Okay, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. So I-bonds are a great opportunity right now. If you purchase them this month, then you're getting what is it, I think it's 7.12% guaranteed rate of return. But what's going to happen in May is most people are projecting, because it's based off of inflation, most people are projecting a 9 even as high as 9.6% guaranteed rate of return for 6 months. Now there's some rules and restrictions with I bonds, but here's the thing: is you're getting a guaranteed rate of return. Whoops. For at least a 6-month period, assuming you leave it in there. And nowhere else in the world are you saying 9.6% rate of return guaranteed. Now the big thing is that you can only put in $10,000 per person. Okay, so if you're a married couple, each of you could put in $10,000, and then if you have a trust, the trust could actually put in $10,000. So if you're married and you have an estate plan, you could theoretically put in $30,000 per year into I bonds. Now historically, I bonds have been, so right now we're at 9.6. Historically, if you look back historically, it's typically between 1 to 3% rate of return. So this might not be like a long-term thing because it resets every 6 months, but at least right now with this crazy inflation, I bond values have just skyrocketed, where this is a guaranteed 9.6% potentially, we'll know in May officially, rate of return. And the way to go about doing this is you go to Treasury Direct. You can just put into Google I bonds Treasury Direct, and that's probably going to take you directly to the government site to buy the I bonds. Now, another thing is they are built on a time horizon or a chassis. Typically, I want to say it's 5 years if I'm not mistaken. And if you do take the money out sooner than that, the penalty is that you lose 3 months worth of interest. So I can't do math in my head, but let's say you put in, you're going for that 9.6%. You don't, and then you pull the money out in a year, you would lose 3 months worth of interest that was credited. So you're walking away with 8% rate of return, which is still good. So in this situation, it's something that's basically liquid enough, where if you needed the money, you could get access to it, and you're getting a better rate of return than leaving it in cash. And it just kind of works out that the $30,000 that you're looking to invest here, we could have each spouse do 10,000, and then if you have an estate plan, that could do the remaining 10,000. Questions on I bonds: rate change monthly or every 6 months? Every 6 months, every May and November. So, yeah. So at least for the next 6 months, come May, then we know we're going to be getting that 9% rate of return. That's what it's projected. So based off of the indicators. So that's a great option. Third option, and again, this is more of a short-term option because, like I said, historically, you're looking at I bonds, typically about 1 to 3% rate of return. But again, we're locked in for 6 months, so there's nowhere else in the world that I'm seeing a guaranteed 9% rate of return. Now, the next option is a little more complicated. It's a special type of liquid IUL, where typically with IULs, you want the money to stay in there for a period of 10 years. But this is money that's tied to the index. So if the market goes down, you're not going to lose anything. You can get a guaranteed 2.5% rate of return right now. So this is a good kind of cash alternative. Or it can look to the index where if the markets are going up, you can get a roughly, over the last 10 years, it's been averaging about 6% rate of return. So this could be something that you'd throw the $30,000 in, and in 3 to 5 years, it could average 6% rate of return, and then you could cash the whole thing out and there's no fees or costs or anything, and the underwriting's real light. So if you're to put a gun to my head and make me say what exactly we should do here, probably what I would do is fully fund the I bonds for that $30,000, and then in 6 months check to see what the rates are going to be. If the rates are going to be higher than 6%, then put the 30,000 back, keep them in the I bonds. And again, each year you can put more money in if you wanted to. But just for that initial 30,000, we'd take a look at, see where interest rates are going, If it's going to be above the 6% that we could earn elsewhere with similar guarantees, then keep it in the I bonds. If not, then look at some other options. And maybe we look at the market at that time. I don't know. But yeah, I think I bonds are, again, a great opportunity. We're talking about this about 5 months ago when we saw the I bonds were at 7.12%. But again, you're capped at how much you can put in. So it's not like, and also has to be post-tax money. You can't put in like IRA money and that type of thing. So these are more cash alternatives, short-term investment vehicles. Here's a question that came in along the same lines. So 529, that has to be used for education. It grows tax-free, so that part's kind of cool, but you just have to use it for education. And in this situation, I guess they kind of knew their daughter wasn't going to college, so they didn't have it in the 529 in the first place. And then even if the kid was going to college, throwing the $30,000 into the 529 at this point, it's like you don't have a lot of the tax-free growth. Question is, can Roth hold I bonds? No, this has to be post-tax dollars. So post-tax dollars, not Roth, not IRA, not 403Bs. Can you put I bond only a small amount, like 5,000? Yep, yeah. The max you can put in is 10,000. So if you want to throw 5,000 into an I bond, it's a great opportunity right now. Because again, it's come May, it's going to be, most experts are projecting about a 9% rate of return, slightly higher, maybe 9.6. Continuing on, so talking about the 529 question that came in. So 529, it's invested in the market. Typically, if you're living in Michigan, you would take the Michigan 529 because there's tax breaks. Depending on what state you're living in, if your state offers tax breaks, typically you want to just take those tax breaks. If not, there are certain states that have better 529 plans. In terms of better investment choices with lower fees, Utah has a really good one where if Michigan didn't have the state tax breaks, I would have went to the Utah 529 for my kids who are 9 and 11 a number of years ago. But Michigan has a pretty good one. It's one of the top rated ones. So if you live in Michigan, typically you'd look at Michigan 529. But the issue is it has to be used for education. So a question that came in is, what happens if that child doesn't use it for education? Easiest thing to do is you just change beneficiaries. So find someone else in your family who you want to leave it to. In the past, what people would do is, okay, let's say you put in this 529, your kid doesn't go to college, you're retired, but now you want to take cooking classes or auto racing, like car driving, auto racing classes with Mario Andretti and stuff like that. You used to be able to use 529s for all kinds of like crazy things like that. You want to take skydiving courses or become a pilot, like as the adult, you could use it for a wide range of things. But a number of years ago, they kind of tightened it up what 529s could be used for. But the easiest thing is just changing beneficiary. So if you have 3 kids, really technically you only need one 529. And then if the oldest uses a portion, that's great. If the second doesn't use any, that's fine. And then the third, you could change the beneficiary to list the third kid. It can go to, there's certain restrictions on who you can transfer it to, which I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say you can do it to cousins, but that might be as far as you can change the beneficiary. So yeah, you can change it to someone in the family. Also, you can just take the money out. So it's not like the money's locked up, but you would have to pay some penalties on that. So that would be worst case scenario, is you just take the money out and pay some penalties. But 529s are kind of weird. Like they even avoid probate just naturally. So they're a little bit of a weird beast. But yeah, in this situation, 529 wouldn't make sense. They're not going to college. So we look at some other alternatives. Also, there's things like if they're younger kids, you can look at UGMA or UTMA accounts. But then they get access to that at 18 or 21. So, and in this situation, the kid's about to turn 18, so that didn't make sense. All right. On to the next one. And this is the last question I have. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A and I'll go ahead and address it. How do personal items make it into a trust or cars? I understand on the real estate and investment accounts. Yeah. So one of the biggest things is we need to make sure that we have funded our trust. So let's assume this is our trust and this is us. So and you have these assets, right? These assets are in your name. So things like investment accounts, they have title. Beneficiary, your IRAs, your life insurance, they all have title, like some type of title, either ownership or beneficiary. And that's really what we want to have, is we want the trust either to own or to be a beneficiary of basically every asset you have. So at the end of the day, everything you have goes through the trust, because this is your rule book, and then goes down to your beneficiaries upon death. So this is your checking account, your savings account, your life insurance, your 401k, your IRA, your 403b. Everything should flow through the trust, because that's your rule book that organizes everything. It appoints someone to manage your affairs. It avoids probate, does all those great things. And then it gives us the rules of how we want to leave things to the beneficiaries. Is it outright to the beneficiaries? Are we giving them the opportunity for a lifetime of asset protection? So yeah, the trust has to be owned, or the trust should either own or be a beneficiary of every asset. And the type of trust determines whether it should be ownership or beneficiary. If it's an asset protection trust, ownership. If it's not an asset protection trust, then typically we want the trust listed as a beneficiary. So that's easy on financial accounts. You go into, I just wrapped up a meeting with the clients, delivering his estate planning binder, and we talked about what he needs to do at the bank now, and how he has to walk in with certificate of trust. So now his checking account, his savings account, all list the trust as payable on death. So upon their death, it flows into the trust, avoids probate, goes where it's supposed to go. And then real estate, a lot of time we do this through what's called a deed. There's different types of deeds. There's like warranty deeds and quitclaim deeds. And either what we're doing is we're deeding it directly into the trust if we're doing an asset protection trust, or we're doing what's called a ladybird deed to say that the trust is the beneficiary, meaning it's in your name while you're alive and well. It's in your name while you're alive and well, and then upon death, it flows into the trust. But then the question is not about those, actually. It's about personal items and cars. So one of the things when we do this is typically we'll do what's called an assignment as personal property. You might Schedule A. And all these is a document basically waving a magic wand over all the stuff that doesn't have title, like your jewelry, your pots and pans, your furniture, your stuff. Like, how do you know you own it? You own it. You don't have title to your furniture. You don't have title to your TV. You just possess it. And so one of the things, whenever we do a trust, is we do this assignment of your personal property, waving a magic wand over all of your stuff. So now it's incorporated into the trust. And then upon death, your trustee kind of gathers up all that stuff and then distributes it to whatever the beneficiaries want. And then you have an estate sale. So that's how you handle personal items. Now, things like cars, if they're less than $60,000, they pass to next of kin, which would be spouse, and then kids, probate free. All you have to do is walk in with a death certificate. If they're more than $60,000 and you think the fair market value at death will still be more than $60,000, then we might want to go through the trouble of changing title. But typically we don't do that, because the value we feel at the end of the day is going to be less than 60,000. So cars typically you don't have to worry about. Personal items we take care through that property transfer affidavit. So, all right, here's another question that's coming in regarding I-bonds. Getting back to the I-bonds. If I-bond registered in trust name, which is limited to 10,000, however, each person is allowed 10,000, does that mean each person could get another 5K each? If so, how would one title to avoid probate? So let's say we have a married couple. Let's say we have a husband and wife. So when you register at Treasury Direct, each of you can do a $10,000 I-bond. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you add a beneficiary. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure you can add a beneficiary. And then let's say we have the trust. And now the trust is the owner of the $10,000. So let's say we have Joe, We have Mary, each registered with a $10,000 I bond. And then we can have the Joe and Mary trust. And also in this situation, the daughter's turning 17 so soon. Once she turns 18, she could have her own $10,000 I bond, and maybe mom and dad could just manage it. So, all right. So if you do have any questions, please put it into the Q&A. Otherwise, everyone rush out and get some I bonds, hypothetically speaking. 95-year-old mom has extra 10,000 sitting in savings. Can she do an I bond? Yep, I don't see why not. So if you have 10,000 sitting in cash, you're not going to touch it for at least 6 months to a year, you think, then throw it into an I bond. Get a guaranteed 9% rate of return, at least for the next 6 months, potentially. All right, any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Oh, here's another one. Can a beneficiary under age 18 own an I bond? No, I don't think so. I think you have to be 18. Could be wrong, but I would think you'd have to be 18. It'd have to be a very, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to be 18. I have to double check that actually. Okay, any other questions? All right, going once, going twice. Thank you so much. You do have questions, feel free. Oh, where do you buy an I bond? You go to here, I'll put it right into the chat. But you go to Treasury Direct. Hold on. I know I'm not sharing my screen. I will share in a moment. Well, I'm just going to put it into the chat. Hold on. Redirect. All right. Yeah, and here's some more information. The site is actually pretty good with regards to everything covered, like how the I bonds work. Hold on, let me figure out the chat. Host and panelists. Everyone. All right. So I just put it into the chat. You should be able to kind of copy and paste that and put that into your browser. Yeah. Again, so again, if you have cash that's sitting around for a year, you think, throwing some into I bond certainly makes sense. And like I said, you have a guaranteed, assuming everything is kind of going the way people think it does, 9.6% rate of return for at least 6 months. So pretty darn good deal. All right, I'm done. Thank you.